And welcome back to the conversation. I'm New Brad. Told the conversation. We're talking to different candidates. We got a big election coming up here in November 7th. So we got to come out and support whoever your candidate is. No matter who you support, just get out there and vote and you make your voice be heard. We're here. We've been interviewing candidates all day today, and we're here with school committee member from Ward 4, school committee member Tony Rodrigues. Tony, first and foremost, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my experience and talk politics in the city.
Now, I know it's been relatively quiet the last couple of weeks. Nothing's been happening.
Oh, yeah, no. It's been very spicy.
But listen, I mean, there's been some serious stuff going on. So, I make light of it, but it's a serious topic in terms of, I'm just going to get right to it. You're running for re-election for Ward 4 School Committee. You are unopposed. So I guess, in terms of people are happy with the work that you're doing. And I want you to talk about, first and foremost, this is your third term.
Yeah, this will be my third term, going into my third term.
So talk about your first two terms, and then we'll get into the deficit and everything. But talk about your first two terms, some things that you have accomplished that you're proud of that you want people to know about.
So in my first term, few months in, 3 months in, COVID hit. And it was going from, physically being a meeting to behind the screens, and I'm just like, wow, I guess this was it was a sign. And it was more of trying to, learn like what was really going on in the school district, but now we're shut down. The whole country is shut down. How do we navigate? What do we do? What are the decisions that's going to be made? How do we support the students at home? And it was more of making sure that these kids, let's not say kids, students, receive the proper education behind the screen. From there, slowly opening back up, getting the students back into the classrooms, meeting in person. Some people still doing Zoom. It was eye-opening just to see some of the things that was lacking in the school district. And that was one of the reasons why I ran, to make sure that when I was in school, where did the district fail me, to make sure that, another student is not being failed from the process that was going on when I was a child.
So I want you to talk about, COVID. I thought it kind of opened, some of the layers that we were lacking, and COVID forced kids to have a computer and to finally be one-to-one with computers. So some good things came out of it in terms of that aspect. What are some things that you felt that you were able to accomplish in those 4 years that you kind of want to tout right now and let those constituents know? Because there were some good things that you guys did within the 4 years when you're at the school committee.
One of my accomplishments is, I created the subcommittee for music, arts, and athletics because there wasn't a subcommittee that addressed those issues. When we get our job assignments, I was looking through and I'm just like, how do we address this? So thanks to the committee and the chair for supporting that measure. Where we bring the athletic director, the music director, arts in front of us and ask questions, what do you need, just to make sure that those programs are growing and not lacking. I advocated for middle school sports. We brought middle school football, which is very big within the city. And it still needs to grow. My vision is that, every athletic sport that's offered at the high school level to be offered at the middle school level, because that's the turnaround point. So it's not fair for a child to wait until they get to high school to join the swim team. They should be joining that in middle school. So, we have to make sure that we do a better job in advocating for that, making sure that we're meeting the needs of the students.
So let's fast forward now. And, there were some great things done, but the school committee has taken a lot of heat the last month and a half or so over the $14 million deficit. So just right off the bat, explain to the constituents who might be confused, is a $14 million missing? Is there a deficit? And what are some vetting processes that could happen for that won't happen again?
So I don't want to, you can't say it's, missing. I don't like to put I know the price tags out there, there's 14 million. We don't actually know the actual number. It could be less. I hope it's less. It could be a lot more. So until this audit takes place, we're not going to know what the damages are. And, as far as, who to blame or not to blame, it's not just this committee. It's the committees that came before us that didn't put those measures into place. A lot of people that are individuals that sit on a committee got complacent. I'll say it. They didn't do their job. So if you're sitting in this seat, you have to do your job and making sure that things are being followed and the policies that the school committee put into place are being followed. I had an issue with when I first got on. Before I was even in this position, I used to go to the budget hearings, specifically because I had an issue with our parks department, because they weren't putting resources into our parks. They're not catering to the community. And where you sit and see on the city side, you have department heads come before the council and present their budget. We didn't get that on the school side. You only had one individual that was presenting for the whole district. So I had an issue with that. I'm only one individual. I'm only one vote. How come different department heads are not coming before this body to let us know exactly what they need? Not just the CFO that's telling us, oh, it's this, that. This is how much we're going to put here. No, I want to hear from our sped department. I want to hear from our athletics. I want to hear from the bilingual department. That's where you know exactly what's really needed. And those leaders in those positions should, it's going to happen, come before the body to present their budget so that we know exactly what's going on. It's even questioning how come we're not getting monthly financial reports. It's never happened. So I know some former members said that they got it. It never happened. The longest term member in our last meeting, I asked, he's never got it. He's never seen it. So that's where I had an issue with, pointing the finger. We can't be pointing the finger. We have to work together. So it's more of making sure that the budget is basically adhered to, and that starts with the superintendent, because the school committee did approve, this is the budget that we need. You can't overspend it. And if there's an area where that it's underfunded, you bring that back to the committee and, let the committee with the chair, look at what we can cut, where we can cut, or do we have to go back in front of the council saying, this is education, something happened, this is, we're ballooned up, we have to get more funds for this.
Because Tony, on the outside looking in, and I was talking to some of the city councilors before, it seems like there's a lot of finger pointing, no accountability. School committee is looking at council looking at school committee, and vice versa. And, it's and I think that's a frustrating thing from the community standpoint is the accountability factor. Do you understand that frustration about that accountability and feel like no one's really taking the word blame? You can call it blame, accountability. That's the perception that's coming from the community. Do you understand that?
The thing is, nobody wants to take blame for this. Right. Nobody does. But for example, we went in front of the city council. We didn't have to. We gave them the due diligence and the respect of going and answering their questions. But it turned into a finger pointing. You guys didn't do your job and trying to reprimand us. No, we're elected by the people. The city council doesn't oversee the school committee. The school committee doesn't oversee the city council. So we're there because the voters put us in those seats. But when you want to come and grandstand, it's their house. I respect that, but best believe that I'm gonna rebut on that, and I did. Nothing I said was false. It's all true. So people are upset because the truth hurts. So now I hope we can get past that. Bury the hatchet. You did what you did. I said what I said. I sleep at night. But, we have to move forward. We have to work together. And we have to make sure that the city of Brockton has the #1 education system in the Commonwealth, and let us be the leaders of that.
I think, we all have friends and people who have been on boards. I'm on boards. And just I want to give a perspective outside looking in, is that when you're on a board, typically you're presenting, X amount of dollars from the CEO or, from the executive director. In this case, it'd be the superintendent, what have you. And then you can only approve what's in front of you. If this is the budget's in front of you, you can improve. So I guess the fear is that the money that was approved is not all what was presented to you. Were there other things that were not presented to you, and you guys approved a certain amount of money? I mean, it seems like that you guys were approved X amount of dollars, and you guys didn't see where the other money was coming from. That's the perception.
No, we approved the budget, based on what the needs of the district is.
Right.
As far as educators in the classroom, with our expenses and service contracts. So that's how the budget's drafted up, even from net to non-net. So once we approve that, it has to be followed.
Right.
You can't go and say, We have 1,500. Just throwing the numbers out there. We have 1,500 educators. You can't go and hire 2,000 educators because that's not budgeted for that. Did that happen? Most likely, it probably did.
Where was the vetting process when, okay, guys, we're overspending right now, we need to stop? Who's that person? I guess I'm trying to say, okay, we're overspending right now. Now we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to eventually $14 million over budget. Who's that gatekeeper, that vetting process where it's like, you guys, we got to stop. We got to hold back here.
There's a lot. There's, the CFO, the school side. He knows where the numbers are. So, he would come, let the superintendent know. And you have a chief that would say, listen, we're overspending here. We need to put some measures into place, and it's the superintendent's job without a vice chair to make sure they bring that to the committee to let us know that was never done. But then you also have on the city side where you have the city CFO and you have the city auditor. That's their job. So if the city auditor missed that's on them. They should have known that we overspent, even by $1. That was never relayed to the school committee. So it's now it's you have FY23, 24, FY24, if I'll ask me, we're already in the negative. Why was it in the negative? Because the budget that the school committee approved wasn't the budget that was presented to the city council. Now that's very concerning because we're short $4 million.
I want you to talk about this. You mentioned in a couple weeks ago at the school committee meeting, I think it was very important, talking about accountability. I think some of our residents have accountability. I should say all of our residents have accountability. Because when you're at the school committee meeting, Tony, how many people on average show up to those meetings?
I would say a handful, if that. In one hand, five, less than five. But it's, you have the executive team there. Obviously the school staff, if they, from our leaders, questions that the school committee has to answer, or if there's any, real issue, like for example, the cell phone policy and the dress code, with the dress code, in trying to implement a uniform policy. So you had more people, more residents that were concerned about cell phones and a dress code policy than our actual budget, where the money was going. That's concerning. So so I guess a cell phone and a dress code was more important than our actual budget, or even our curriculum that we vote on. So it's just I don't get it. It's the importance is kind of like out of tune with the community.
I agree. I think it's we gotta have an honest, uncomfortable discussion, which we're having right now about where does this fall on the community. The community should take some responsibility. School committee, city council, mayor, superintendent, what have you. I think everyone's hands and everyone could do better. Let's talk about going forward. If you're elected, which you're unopposed, I don't see why not. What is your vision for the next 2 years? What do you want to see accomplished on the school committee?
My vision, dealing with this budget shortfall is making sure that this committee that's sitting there now, once, after the election, depending upon how the time frame frames, it's making sure that there is, policies that are in place that we do have, that it's adhered to, specifically when it comes to budgeting. Making sure that every meeting that we have, that we're getting a budget report from the city school side CFO, making sure that coincides with our enrollment, and making sure, for example, Mr. Clarkson provided us, the document through Munis that the accounts review has been asking for over 2 years, and I think they've been asking it for longer than that, and I'm just like, how is this being presented to me now when I've been asking for this for 2 years? If that little document that he provided to us through Munis, if we had that 2 years ago, we would have seen this. You would have seen the red flags. You could have seen the spending because it's laid out. You can give it to a first grader on the color code and they would have picked it out. And it never happened. So now it comes to the conclusion, why was this being withheld from this body? Is it because they overspent in 22, 21, which I believe so, but, until you have this audit take place, it's going to determine what really happened and what the measures are. You can't spend money that the committee didn't approve. You can't move money around if the committee didn't approve it. There's positions that can't be created without the committee approval. So, people just need to realize that the governing body of the school district is the Brockton School Committee. Things cannot happen without our approval. And there was a lot of, I can't say missteps, things that were supposed to happen didn't happen.
I want to touch upon one more thing before we get out of here. Is the enrollment in having options as a high school student in Brockton. Do we have enough options? It seems like the enrollment's going down, which in turn is going to lead to less funding. How do we have retention and keep students in Brockton and going to school in Brockton, and as well as teachers as well? Because it seems to me what the parents are saying, there's not enough options in Brockton. We have one major high school, Brockton High School, and other schools that the enrollment's not that high. You have Palmer School, which is 50, 60 kids. Other smaller schools, but in terms of a major second option, Brockton doesn't have that, and they're losing kids to Southeastern, to charter schools, to Catholic schools and what have you. How do we keep our students in Brockton?
We have to see what the needs are. For example, vocational. I was when I got on, that was one of my things. When I looked at the number, there was just slightly over 400 students that were on a waiting list for vocation. Why is it taking this long to assess that and move that forward? And from Brockton Public Schools and the charters, there's over 1,200 students that are on a waiting list to get into the vocation. I know we've been making some progress. I actually, next few weeks, I should have a meeting with a technical college and working to making sure that Brockton has its vocational technical school, which we voted with some measures. We just received some grant funding from the governor's office to move that initiative forward. But it has to happen. It's not just having meetings and, this is an idea. It's okay, let's get the people that make these decisions and making sure that we can have this vocational tech school in Brockton. And I'm not talking about down like 2 or 3 or 4 years from now. I'm talking about next school year. I mean, if we can do this after the winter break, then great. But it does, city government doesn't work that way. But it has to happen. Options it's what the parents really want. It's more of taking the surveys from our kids, like I said, middle school. What do these kids want? What do you want to get out of the education that you're that the city of Brockton is providing you and our parents? And then also you have to focus on our second language learners. We have a huge population of immigrants in the city. And is it a language barrier because of these kids are not getting that because the parents don't know? How are we doing to communicating the programs that we have in Brockton Public Schools? And as far as our retention, it's more of doing a better job recruiting. Showing all of our assets. That's what it is. Showing all our assets, all the programs that we have, and making sure, number one, that our schools are safe. For our students and our educators, that's the number one priority, is making sure that our schools are safe and that the teachers are safe, and then I have to worry about, telling a kid you have to take your hoodie off.
And I think that relates to the school being overcrowded. And, if there were another option, you wouldn't have as much conflict. You look at all these gateway cities. You look at, Lowell High School, and they have Greater Lowell, CTE Technical School. New Bedford, Greater New Bedford. Even Quincy High School, CTE program. Taunton High School, CTE program. All these gateway cities have that. And, this is like Brockton does not have a legitimate second chance, a second option, I should say, not chance, second option for that opportunity.
You have the Promise, and you have, or you go to charter, or do you go to private?
And Promise is a great school.
Promise is unbelievable. It's in my district.
Right.
Dr. Kelly Silver is over there doing a tremendous job, and you have to grow that. So we have to see, okay, you have the high school, you have the Promise, you have this program, you have our vocational. Like, what else are we missing? And then that's reaching to those students, asking them. Not like, it's not what I want, it's what the students need. Asking them. They're the ones that are taking that. What do you see? Talking to the educators, making sure that, we know, okay, this is where the need is for this program. It's more of knowing, like, why are these students going to Southeastern? Why do they want it? It's just, for example, I talked to a group of kids on the football field. They're at Southeastern because they wanted to get into the criminal justice program because Brockton didn't offer that. So we just lost those group of kids. How many kids are in that program? I don't know, 100, 200, 300. So you just lost all those kids. So we have to make sure that we have the number one education system in the Commonwealth, and it's building on our needs.
Final pitch. Why should people vote you in on November 7th to get reelected on another term?
Well, it's, I'm that guy. I'm gonna tell you.
He's him.
I'm him. I'm him. I'm that guy. It's, I'm not here for no personal gain. It's no nothing. It's I'm here because I feel that when I was a child going into the Brockton public school system that they failed me, and I didn't want another child to fall into that failure of why did I end up where I am? Because I didn't have this opportunity. I didn't have that educator that pulled me to the side and said, hey, John or Mike, this is what you need to do. I feel that, I'm that individual that's going to fight, for the right cause. I look into things. It is what it is. You get what you get. It's black and white.
Listen,
Tony Rodrigues, Ward 4.
Listen, that one thing I would say is that, you are at events as if you have 5 candidates running against you. And I think that's one of the reasons why people, don't run against you, is because you're always out there. You're at the debates, even though there's no one running against you. You're at podcasts like this, even though no one's running against you. You're at events, even though no one's running against you. So I think people see that, they appreciate that, and, and it proves that, I don't think you've had an opponent the last two.
No, the first term I had one opponent, but he decided to run for mayor. And since then, I haven't had an opponent, so I think I'm doing a great job. I mean, that kind of, speaks volume, or unless, people don't care. But, I think, where I am right now is, people are like, well, he's calling out what's really happening. I'm not sugarcoating anything. It is what it is. I might come off harsh, or, oh, he's a bully. No, I'm not a bully. I'm telling you what it is. You know what I mean? You have to accept that. I'm not here to water down anything. This is the city of Brockton. We have that title, City of Champs. Let's act like champs. Champs don't let things fall apart. We have to build on that. And, it's sad, things that I was advocating for now, it's, coming towards the forefront. Like, oh, he was right. He was right. So did this have to happen? It shouldn't have, but we have disagreements, and that's, that's politics, but, we all have to work with each other. I mean, I don't dislike anybody on the committee. We just have disagreements on certain things, and that's just the way, things go.
That is it for this episode of The Conversation. Tony Rodrigues, candidate for Ward 4 School Committee. That is it for our candidates, I shouldn't say forum, but, more of a informational session. So, listen to our different candidates and make a decision November 7th.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to let the committee, the community know on October 26th I will be hosting a soiree. It's themed music, arts, and athletics. Have 3 guest speakers that are gonna be speaking. It's gonna be at the Enzo Gallery on Crescent Street in Montello, the 26th from 6 to 9 p.m.
Definitely show up for that. Tony, appreciate you.
Thank you, Nubi. Appreciate all the hard work you've been doing, brother.
All right.